Social media, a recipe for disaster or a masterpiece? Hi everyone, my name is Julia Patterson and I focus on social media. In particular, whether we can view it as a top innovation of our generation or is it simply a recipe for disaster? We should ask ourselves, has social media brought out society's best and worst traits? And what examples can we relate social media to our own personal experiences? Examples of negative disruption may be cyberbullying, or a positive potential could be online communities. In my project, I argue that social media is classified as an emerging digital technology due to its everlasting disruptions based on the criteria of audience, culture, speed, scale, and overall impact. Altogether, social media has altered the development of our relationships, led to changes in work, and even our state government of New Jersey, which in combination established major changes in our culture. In particular, we can think of these changes as subcategories, which are caused by the uses and trends of social media, their individual disruptive impacts, which in turn allows our class to make educated predictions for the future of social media's integration into society. First, we can look at the changes in development of relationships. Only a few decades ago, many people waited for a letter to come via mail or for a phone call on the home landline. Since then, the emergence of the Triple Revolution through the growing use of the internet, mobile communication, and social media has allowed us to connect with anyone virtually anytime. This includes FaceTiming friends, family, online classes, work meetings, making friends in online communities, romantic relationships online. So when all of our daily interactions start to convert to virtual spaces, we can describe this as a techno-social life as coined by Chaco. This brings us to a position of constant and consistent connectedness. We always have our laptop, we always have our phone on us. You can think of this as having your Apple Watch. We always have some kind of technology on us that we are constantly plugged into social media and to connecting with other people. Uses and trends to disruptive impact. We can look back to the late 1990s and 2000s to popular social networking sites such as MySpace, where peers they could view each other's profiles, directly message each other, or post a message to a larger audience. This led to today's innovations and popular social media apps such as Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter. As we can see, a popular trend is shared social media support has led to budding romantic relationships for some people. As our technology use becomes heavily integrated into our lives, romantic relationships they commonly form and grow online almost as they begin in real life. Also, with the growing popularity of social media, people start to gather around their keyboards and their computer screens to join online communities that share an identity together. We could define these virtual spaces as communities that provide social engagement and they provide a feeling of belonging. In turn, uses and trends leads to disruptive impact where social media has caused an adverse changes to family relationships and their development between parents and their children, according to the Pew Research Center. As you can see on the chart on the right-hand side, a study found that 66% of parents felt it was harder to raise children today than it was 20 years ago. Additionally, of those who felt parenting became more difficult, 26% said it was due to technology in general, while 21% of parents stated it was due to social media. So I predict from the changes in the development of our relationships through the studies conducted by the Pew Research Center regarding parents' attitudes and experiences related to digital technology, I think that in the future that these opinions about the parents and social media, that they're going to change as the current generation becomes parents themselves. Today's users are highly aware of social media's negative impacts and the potential for positivity as we have seen over time. Therefore, future parents of today's generation may have more complex stances based on their own personal experience with social media. Secondly, due to present circumstances withholding us from regular social interaction, There may even be a surge in romantic relationships as people rely on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to connect with others. According to Chaco, these relationships they tend to be established off of emotional support. Changes in work. Social media advertisements significantly differ compared to marketing tactics such as billboards because they are uniquely selected for individual users, as they seem almost handpicked. Each advertisement is influenced by the data the company may collect during your online experience. For example, I was scrolling through Pinterest for room decor, as you can see in the picture I have on the slide, and then an advertisement for a mirror from Target pops up, and the advertisement looks like it fits right within the aesthetic and right in with the Pinterest feed, because they want the algorithm to fit almost seamlessly and smoothly so that people don't notice. So, like I said, Pinterest is a perfect illustration of this because the algorithm learns your aesthetic taste as you continuously search for products. Also, businesses can promote themselves almost as a means of free advertising on platforms, and this has created a new league of jobs for people like social media coordinators or social media managers. I actually run an account myself for a local real estate agency in my town. This ranges from small businesses to even large corporations like Wendy's. You may see Wendy's tweets on Twitter as they come at McDonald's or Burger King, things like that. Lastly, people can even promote themselves on networking sites such as Facebook or LinkedIn, where the primary focus of their profile is to look for jobs and to engage with others professionally. In regards to changes in work through advertising, today can well be summed up in this quote. It seems that the new frontier for advertising may lie beyond the television screen and in a consumer's pocket. According to CNBC in 2019, 99% of Facebook's revenue was from advertising in 2018. So this is a really popular trend that we can see with social media. Also, 77% of U.S. small businesses use social media where they can advertise and even directly sell their products. So trends like these help us to classify social media as a disruptive technology because businesses are able to work on a larger scale to a new audience of users. Given these findings, I would definitely predict that customized advertisements will continue to grow as more users join platforms. Each social media platform will continue to include sponsored content in the most ambiguous ways possible in order to make viewing content a seamless transition from your actual feed. Consequently, with the rise in digital marketing, print media advertising may bring in substantially less revenue than that of their competitor. Onto change in governing. The creators and industry leaders of social media platforms have set community guidelines which are supposed to regulate hate speech, violence, harassment in users, posts such as tweets. Over time, guidelines have become heavily regulated and altered to promote a safer online community, especially in the age of the cyberbully or the troll. Today, many children and young adults face severe cyberbullying on social media, which of course leads to mental health issues or even death in the most extreme cases. So for this reason, some local governments have even instituted various laws in order to establish penalties for online harassment and then create prevention plans. So for instance, as part of uses and trends, we can think about the example of Tyler Clementi. He was actually a Rutgers University student who was harassed on Twitter by his roommate at the time because he was gay, which ultimately led to Clementi's suicide soon after. This was back in 2010. Unfortunately, Clementi was not the first nor the last victim of cyberbullying, as we all know. As young users rise on social media, cyberbullying has become more evident, leading to dozens of tragedies. So for this reason, some local governments have instituted various laws in order to establish penalties for online harassment and create prevention plans. In addition, cyberbully victims and allies have found solace in online communities using hashtag activism to spread information. Uses and trends. Once again, so due to cyberbullying and harassment on social media, Congress has introduced actually a bill in honor of Clementi's passing. So overall, 59% of teens say that they have experienced some form of cyberbullying, according to the Pew Research Center, as we see in this chart right here, published in 2018. So of course this goes on to lead to the disruptive impact of government involvement, and it leaves a long-term impact on the audience's mental health. Predictions. So social media such as Twitter and Facebook have improved their regulations in order to protect targets of online harassment. As many social media users are familiar with, it is simple to report inappropriate content or block certain profiles from contacting you. These simple features have helped to mitigate cyberbullying incidents, however, they cannot completely eliminate them. Therefore, I predict that cyberbullying will remain consistent with the growth of social media users. Lastly, onto the change in culture. So social media has greatly impacted ways in which we behave, what we view as normal, and what we value throughout our culture. Due to social media's great influence, users may associate with an overall feeling of anxiety in regards to FOMO or fear of missing out. They may feel that there are unrealistic standards of beauty, and they also may be engaged with obsessive scrolling on social media. The integration of social media into our everyday lives exacerbates these issues, and they make it more difficult to unplug or disconnect from that consistent state of connectedness from our digital devices, although it's beneficial. So society's addiction to social media and constant connectedness has kept many users logged into their screens, albeit that they are aware of its potential negative effects. Uses and trends to disruptive impact. A current issue of concern is how our desire for connectedness, along with social media's manipulation tactics, causes users to obsessively scroll and make platforms addictive. The designed infinite scroll of social media pages disrupts our brain's impulses, which would normally indicate us to pause or stop. For example, if a person is eating a bowl of soup, they will typically stop eating once that bowl is finished. However, imagine if the bowl kept refilling itself. Then the person would probably eat more than they intended. Hence, we have become overly engaged with our screens and addicted to scrolling. Because there's no end, we don't stop. These app features want to keep us online as long as possible, so we can view more advertising. Sandy Parkilis, a former Facebook employee, she actually expressed, it is a business model designed to engage with you and get you to basically suck up as much of your time as possible so that they can sell that attention to advertisers. Comprehensively, these changes in our culture symbolize why social media is an emerging disruptive technology. Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest are all relatively new networks which have produced a global audience of users. Due to their large following, social media users' attention also stimulates a new market for online advertisements. As previously stated, these marketing tools have become ingrained into our everyday lives, so much so that they are a new cultural norm. Lastly, for predictions of our change in our culture. Based on an overwhelming amount of research, articles, statements, all regarding social media's impact, I would predict that its popularity will continue to grow and thus become more integrated into our lives. Social media's negative disruption will therefore also continue to grow unless we learn to control our online habits, limit our screen time, and understand how our data is used to manipulate us through advertisements and the algorithms. Under these circumstances, I would assume that eventually social media companies, they will have to implement such procedures to keep their users satisfied, because without users' attention,